The call started like a lot of phone consultations that I have where a mom that is, to say that she was overwhelmed is kind of an understatement. So we have an overwhelmed mom telling me all about what's not working inside homeschooling. And when I get to the part where I ask, well, tell me about your routine, it's it happens almost every time. It's like, "Well, we don't really have a routine." And so I wanna talk about the unexpected homeschool challenges. These are the things that kind of take us by surprise when we're homeschooling our kids. The reason why it catches us off guard is you have to imagine. Now, I've taught in a classroom for a few years, way back at the beginning, when I first started right before homeschool. And I can tell you the difference in teaching in a classroom is that you walk into a designated room. School starts at a certain time in the morning. There is a predictable rhythm throughout the day. And at the end of the day, all of those kids go to their own spaces in the universe, and you get to go home to yours. Well, you and I know that homeschooling is not like that. Homeschooling, rather, is like existing in a bowl of spaghetti where everything is mixed and mingled and messy and chaotic. And a lot of times it's hard to distinguish between the chore time of the day, the quiet time of the day, the math time of the day, etc. It's all mixed up together. And one of the biggest things that homeschoolers trip up over, I did too back in the beginning, was trying to just jump straight into the academics and thinking that it's all going to be smooth sailing when there are all of these things to take into consideration. So in this video, we're going to talk about a few things. We're going to talk about spaghetti. We're going to talk about the core foundation things that we kind of need to wrap our heads around. We're going to talk about what I believe is one of the most important things that we can do to ensure that we have homeschooling success, and how do we start from here. So if you don't know me, my name is Bekki. I'm with Homeschooling Olympians, also A Better Way to Homeschool. We homeschooled all 5 of our sons for the last over 25 years now. They've all launched into life. And I come at you with this perspective that I have gray hair and this wealth of, ooh, I've seen that. It's kind of like farmers. I know a thing or two because I've seen a thing or two, right? So anyway, back to the analogy of spaghetti. I think it catches people by surprise that when they jump into homeschool, that the Red Sea doesn't part. There isn't a clear, here's where math fits in, here's where art fits in, here's where life skills fits in. Instead, you have the 2-year-old painting the bathroom with red nail polish. You've got the 5 and the 6-year-old fighting in the backyard. And you have a 12-year-old slumping at the counter because they don't want anything to do with that curriculum that you've just set in front of them. Meanwhile, the laundry needs to be re-washed again for the 12th time because you haven't had time to put it into the dryer and get it away. And oh my goodness, dinner's going to come around again and I have no idea what to cook. It's this bowl of spaghetti, all of these things mixing together, all of these things that need your attention. And the reason that homeschoolers get tripped up is that they don't pause and push back from the responsibility of needing to be the chief educator and look at everything and figure out, okay, what is the rhythm of my day? How am I going to get all of this to work in a way that by the time the kids graduate high school, they can read? They don't just read, they love to read. They don't just learn, they love to learn. They can do all their basic math facts. They're eloquent communicators. They can write, and they can express themselves. All of those things that we hope to have academically on top of making sure that our kids are loving and kind and compassionate and responsible and diligent, right? So spaghetti. We do not homeschool inside of a classroom that has a nice little bell on the wall that dings and tells us it's time for history. Ding, it's time for math. Ding, it's time for language arts. Ding, mama needs recess and coffee. There's no bell on the wall. And yet I have known homeschoolers that have, I don't know if it's a blessing, but I've known homeschoolers that have had a designated homeschool room with all of those classroom type things. But most of us don't. Most of us are educating right at the kitchen table. So what can we do? Well, the first thing to recognize is that you need to have a routine before you mix in curriculum. I'm going to say that again. You need to have a routine before you mix in curriculum. You also need to understand the emotional roller coaster that all of us go through when we educate our kids. It's different when you're teaching not strangers, it's different when you're teaching kids in a classroom. It's different. You come at it from a different perspective. But when these are your kids, whether they're flesh and blood, adopted, or whatever, when you're dealing with your kids, there's like this heightened level of emotion that comes with it. So when things don't go well, it's easier to just kind of tear each other apart. So you need a routine, you need to understand your emotions, and you need to be able to connect with your kids on a much deeper level in order to actually move forward in homeschooling. So we're teaching in spaghetti. We need to have routines. We need to get our emotions in check. We need to connect with our kids. And that connecting with our kids, that's where I'm gonna pause. And I'm gonna tell you that based on 25 years of homeschooling and gosh, over a decade of homeschool coaching now, I can tell you that if you don't lead with relationship first, if you don't connect with your kids and stay connected with your kids, the academic stuff turns into it can go one of two ways. Some of us have poor connections with our kids, but our kids are so motivated to do what they want to do, they're obediently completing the schoolwork so that they can get done and do what they want to do. The rest of the kids are bucking against the system. They don't like that curriculum. They don't see a point in the curriculum, and they're not connected with you. So they're just going to fight you tooth and nail. If you start with relationship first, even if you have to hide the curriculum, and I've had to do that a couple times in my homeschool career, just tuck the curriculum away and rebuild connection with the kids. If you start with relationship, the learning stuff you can layer back in, and it's more meaningful, and it's more you'll get more out of the academic journey if the kids know that they're seen, if they know that they're heard, if they're validated, and if you're not wrestling with every single thing that you need to do. So I'm going to encourage you to lead with relationship. Now, some of you have middle school kids and they're like from another planet. I understand. I was a middle schooler at one time too, and so was I, from a different planet at that time. And what happens in middle school is that kids start to develop and they start to experiment with what they like and who they are and the way that they express themselves. And it's usually, not always, but usually very different than mom or dad. And sometimes it's by design. They're just trying to push against everything to find where are the boundaries in this bubble that I'm in. The challenge is that if, as the kids are pushing, we just let them go, there's a real chance that we're going to lose them, not just academically, but relationally. And it's at that stage, if your kids are younger, I'm going to challenge you right now. Think about the type of relationship you want with your adult kids. Yeah, they may be little right now, but your adult kids, what kinds of relationships do you want with them when they're 18, 20, 22, 25, and 30? Those are the ages of my kids. So what kind of relationship do you want with your kids when they're older? I can tell you that you want connection, that you want to enjoy each other's company, and that you want to be able to have intelligent conversation, and you don't want to be striving in your relationships. But that starts back when the kids are younger than 10. And it starts and continues when you build that weaving of connection in those critical gauntlet years between the ages of 10, 11, 12, and 14. It's so critical that you connect with your kids. You don't have to like what they like. Man, I've been sharing a little bit out there that one of my kids is the only one that turned out to be a scientist. And I love him to death. And I love his heart for science. I just don't, okay, don't, I just don't care about science at the same level that he does. He geeks out on science so much, it's not even funny. You just he's the quietest one in the house, but if you happen to touch science, he just explodes into excitement. And I don't even know, we didn't even study vocabulary in our homeschool. Not like in the classroom where you had your vocabulary list. We did not do that. And yet he spouts all of this scientific knowledge. What I've learned by raising kids that are so different than me is that the beauty of connection happened by pausing and leaning in and saying, wow, you really love this. Tell me what you're doing. And then listening. It could be as simple as them building with Legos and you pausing and saying, oh my goodness, this looks fantastic. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me what you're building. And then listening. Oh, I'm building this fortress and this is happening. Listen to all the words, that coming alongside and paying attention to what it is the kids have their attention fixated on at the moment. You're validating who they are. It's so important. Without that connection, you're going to have a hard time, not with the kids that are obedient to get to the other side, but you're going to have a really hard time with the kids that are looking at curriculum and going, this does not make sense to me. I do not see purpose in this. So therefore, I'm just going to fight with you because I think I can wear you down. And then we will just call it a school day and then be done. The kids are pretty smart, so be careful. So lead with relationship. So what do you do if you thought you were stepping into a classroom, but you're now covered in the spaghetti of life? You have no routine. You have no reign over the emotions. You're bucking with your kids and you can't connect with them. Where do you start? Right? This is where Homeschooling Olympians, this is where I start everybody. It's with this master class where we first focus on this critical piece of routine. What I'm going to encourage you, this is a freebie. What you do is you pause the academics, especially if things are all chaotic and out of control. Pause the academics for at least a week. And what you do is you run through your day. Every day you're just watching. There's highs in the days and lows in the days. You're looking for, when is the household really happy? Because everybody tends to have a happiest part of the day. When is your household really happy? When is everybody sleepy? When are the hungry times? When is it that everybody breaks into this crazy bit of energy? And then when does the house quiet? You're looking for the highs and the lows, the busy times and the quiet times. Because see, after a week, you're going to be able to see how your family ebbs and flows through the day. You can account for the fact that on Mondays, we're always home. Tuesdays and Wednesdays, wow, we're busy. We've got this thing going on. We've got that thing going on. I struggle putting dinner on the table. And you're just taking a step back and you're kind of charting your life. And you need to do it for at least a week. Better is 2, where you can get a really good glimpse of where your life is at this stage, with the ages that your kids are in, with the activities that your family is involved in, etc. From there, now you can start to think about academics. Because if you start with academics, you just throw academics on top of everything that's going on. And it's almost like if you had a playpen filled with, I don't know, 10 sleeping cats. Okay. And then you just throw a bucket of water on that playpen of cats. Can you imagine the chaos that comes out? That's what happens if you throw curriculum on top of your family without taking into consideration the highs and the lows, the ebbs and the flows, the activities, etc. The unexpected part of homeschooling is that we have to slow down to take a good observation of what we have going on before we can add the academics on and have it be a true success. Otherwise, you're always going to feel like you're wrangling those cats that you just threw water on, and that is no fun because cats that have been startled bring out their claws and their teeth and they start scratching and fighting amongst themselves, and they're going to fight you when you try to grab them as well. And the kids will act like that as well too. If you don't have your routine and your emotions and your connections under control, the curriculum could very well create a cat fight within your house. And you don't want that. And I don't want that for you either. So, homeschool, what do I have for you? I would love to invite you to grab one of two things. One, a free consult with me where we can just chat with what's going on in your homeschool environment right now. The calls are always fun. And except for one call, I've been able to give words of encouragement to everybody that I've been able to talk to so far. The one that I didn't, she encouraged me because she just called because she thought, oh, it might be fun to talk to Bekki. And she was at a different stage of life than I am. And she just breathed encouragement over me. So she had fun encouraging me. But all of the other dozens and dozens and dozens of phone calls have been me able to impart some kind of encouragement over people. So I would encourage you to either book that call or grab the homeschooling success packet or bundle. And all of those things are found at the link in the descriptions. You don't have to live in a life that feels like you just threw water at a bunch of cats. You really can find the flow of your family, figure out the pockets of time that would work the best to sprinkle in something like math or writing or reading, etc. And at the end of the day, you can build a community so that when your kids are grown, you want them to come home and they want to come home, right? You enjoy their company. So unexpected homeschool challenges can be overcome with a little bit of discipline and determination. Grab the details in the description, and I will see you next time.